Hello, and welcome to the second episode of the Enhancing Trauma Awareness podcast. Congratulations, you're finished session 1, and we are diving into session 2.
Woohoo. Today, we're going to go into talking about polishing and refining the trauma lenses, especially as it relates to the impact of trauma on folks. And just invite you to get comfortable, settle in, and enjoy the conversation.
When I was thinking about it, I know in session 1 was the lenses and the demonstration. Now we're really looking about polishing, refining them, pulling them off and on. And as I was thinking about myself and all of the different lenses, the blocked, the spotted, the rose colored, the distorted, and then putting on your trauma lenses, I began to think about what was my default before I really started using my trauma lenses? What was one that I was really unintentional about what I was using? And I realized the spotted, the limited vision was what was my go-to. Trying to figure out things only having a limited part of the view or only having a snapshot of the picture. And so I find myself, even now, that's my default, and I'll start making decisions. And it's only later when I really have my trauma lenses on that I'm like, oh, you didn't have the whole picture. You didn't have the history of yourself or the other person to really know those decisions as well. So the more that I start to know, I'm like, oh, it's an aha moment for me. And also a lesson in our last session, be kind to myself, right? Because I didn't have it all, and I didn't have those trauma lenses, and sometimes I don't always have the whole picture as well. Mm-hmm. What was your default, or what did you possibly go to when you're thinking about the lenses?
I'm thinking that to answer that, I'm going to say two defaults, if we're allowed to have two defaults.
Yeah, of course.
So one, of course, is the one that is spotted. Recognizing that sometimes I rush into things and not being fully aware of having the whole picture. So that's one. And I think the other one is sometimes I'm that person that has the rose color lens.
I never knew that about you.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm the one that it's going to be okay. So I hear that in my head sometimes. So that's what I would say. Mm-hmm.
I have to say, when I was first introduced to the lenses, this isn't my default, but what stood out to me the most was the rose colored, because it named something for me that I avoid the rose-colored glasses. And so I also notice when people have them on and it feels ingenuous. And so that's always kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So it kind of gave me an awareness of what I've always known about myself and be like, oh, that's what that is. It's the rose-colored glasses when it just doesn't feel like it fits. But if I'm thinking about my own default, it probably is the scratch lenses, where I think I've got the clear picture, but it's definitely it's off. I don't always know what it is, because I do like to dive deep, and I do want to understand all the underpinnings, and I want to get the whole picture. Sometimes it's just not right. It's just, and I'm getting that clearer and clearer. I would also say I might use the rose-colored glasses more with my kids. Now that I'm a parent, I feel like I want to put them on and be like, everything's okay, we're good, we got this, and use them in a different way. So all spectrums of the rose-colored glasses for me. But I think the trauma lens piece was super clarifying, right?
Yeah, I'm even hearing you intentionally understanding and knowing what you're doing. Right. And also refining that when and how you want to do that. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where the trauma lenses come on. Yeah. Understanding all of those pieces about yourself and saying, oh yeah, I use this, but maybe it's intentional, and what that means when I need to, refine that.
Yeah. Be the cheerleader. Yeah. I think when we think about wearing the trauma lenses specifically, right, that I know for myself and listening to participants as a participant and as a trainer, you hear how much people see all of a sudden. It feels like it's like they put these lenses on and like, wow, the world looks like vivid color, more so than it ever had before. I think that's one of the things we talk about a lot is like, how do we work with all of that incoming information, and how do we work with the lenses so that we can take in what's possible,
Totally. I think about it like I have my lenses on and I'm watching every movie. I'm seeing trauma.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
every, we talk about all the different types of trauma. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's situational, there's relational, there's complex, and so it can be almost too much where I'm like, help. I now I have these on. I'm intentional about it, but now I don't know how to take them off because there's trauma everywhere. And that can be difficult as well.
When you talk about movies and things like that, when I look at world situations, different situations, I more or less think, duh, it's trauma. I mean, I really probably shouldn't laugh on that, but so many situations you want to look underneath what is really going on. And so many times people are oblivious and to what the real reason is behind people's behaviors. That trauma lens, when you do put it on, you have to be careful also to know when to take it off. You don't want it to run your life. You have to kind of rest sometimes. And especially when you become aware of the trauma lens, you have to be careful yourself so that you don't blame yourself, so you don't shame yourself, so that you are kind to yourself as you look through your interactions and how one has responded before, having not been aware of the trauma lens. And to be honest, my heart hurts sometimes. And that's where you have to really be careful.
Are you good at the boundaries? I mean, I'm going to pose this question to myself. Are you good at the boundaries of being able to take your lenses off when you need to, when your trauma lenses off when you need to? That's a hard one, right?
I'm going to say that through this journey, I've gotten better because when I don't take it off, when I'm not aware, and if I don't hold up the boundaries, to be honest, I physically get sick.
Yeah,
I physically get sick.
Well, we know our body and mind are connected, and so that's real. Yeah. It almost, I feel it's a responsibility for us. Like we think about, that responsibility piece. We talk about that in session 1 a lot, but what is our responsibility to us knowing this information now, having these lenses, but to take them off, to be able to set boundaries, to know when it's too much, especially with what's going on in the world personally and professionally. What does that mean? I know I have trouble. I have them on and I literally intentionally have to physically, and I'm doing it now, take off my glasses and say, I have to take them off now. I have to, or I'm not going to be any good to help others. You just heard my glasses. Actually, I took them off. Because I'm not going to be any good to be able to nurture others if I'm not taking that time to nurture and self-care myself. And that's really tough.
Yeah.
I have to be honest with that. It is tough.
It's not something I often think of in terms of caring for myself, is the boundaries around the lenses, like the trauma lenses, and how I'd say I'm definitely a work in progress. I don't think I've got it. I think oftentimes I realize after the fact, oh, that was too much, right? And like, how do I start to recognize that sooner so that I'm not acting it out elsewhere, like, it's overwhelming me and now I'm overwhelming someone else because of that, right? So how do I catch that sooner? And I think that's a practice I'm in currently of just like, how do I recognize this a little earlier? How do I recognize when I need to put that boundary in place and take off those glasses? I don't wear glasses currently, so I don't have like the physical piece. So I want to think about what that could be for me, right? Like you have a very clear strategy, Michelle, like taking off the glasses and having that reset for yourself. So I want to think about what I can do to kind of have that same kind of physical reminder, like somatosensory reminder of pausing that trauma lens piece for myself when it's getting overwhelming before I'm all the way overwhelmed.
It brings me to just even thinking about, even though we're all sitting here and we know this information and we have our lenses on, just how different even our lenses are and what that means for us when we're in terms of the magnifications and all those things. I mean, you're talking about like, I need to do a little bit of rose color when I'm with my kids, and yet I want to be intentional about these other pieces. And so I find that fascinating to know that we all have these lenses, and yet they're all a little bit different when we're assessing needs or looking or what we're focusing on.
Mm-hmm. I think going back to those rose colored glasses, because they really like resonated with me a lot. I think of like, I'm a perpetual cheerleader. Like I want to cheer people on, and I want to know, like, speaking of boundaries as well, like what's the line between cheering someone on and like being with them where they're at and not pretending things are okay when they're not. I think that's another balance that I seek on the other end of the trauma lens continuum is kind of, to me, the rose colored, and like, how do I balance out just having some hope and having some positivity and wanting to cheer people on, and like, what's the reality and what's the situation and where are they coming from and how are they feeling in this moment? What might be the trauma pieces right in there? So factoring all those in.
Sarah Liz, as you were talking, I was thinking a part of my personality and why I'm in the work that I do is that I think I can't let go. I have to hold on to hope. So the boundaries and the balance of being able to recognize the trauma, but also recognize that through these tools that there is some hopefulness in there. So that's the other part of that, because again, as we see the things and feel the things that are going on, it can be depressing. It could be devastating. How about it can be depressing? Mm-hmm. And for me, I cannot allow myself, when I get those feelings, I cannot allow myself to go down that hole. Because I've been down that hole before, and I suspect many other people have been down that hole. And I'm no good if I'm down that hole. So that's the other part of that.
I think you're just speaking of that hope piece. We have this constant theme of hope, even though we know this information, we have these trauma lenses, and it even talks about like the lenses getting smudged, right? Mm-hmm. I can almost think about all the years that we've been doing this. We talked about 22 plus, 15 years in here. And the fact is we get new information, right? We learn new things. It helps us to even, I can find myself over my glasses, clarifying them a bit more, using the cloth to soften to see it clearer so that I can be on that journey of learning and having new tools. I often think of Dr. Bruce Perry's, he often says in the journey of learning, when we're thinking about the learning of the brain, and it's a mile long, that we've only gone 4 inches so far. I remember when I first started, he said we've only gone 1 inch. So think about how much we have to learn. That's the hope piece. There's going to be more information. I'm going to learn. I'm going to be able to clarify. And there's the hope for everyone. I mean, I think that's his power in that power to change ourselves, to promote healing in others.
To see clearly, to understand, to be humble, to be self-aware, all of those things when you have the trauma lens on.
So as we wrap up this conversation, it was a really I think, enjoyable, grounding conversation. It feels like, for me at this point, I could really use to stand up and move around a little bit. I don't know about anybody else.
I could definitely use that.
Yeah, so I'm just going to invite you to stand, or you can do this seated as well, but just kind of find what feels best for you in this moment. And as I was talking about finding some way to think about taking off the trauma lenses, I'm going to think about kind of shaking it off. So just going to invite you to take one arm, reach it to the side, reach it up, and just shake it out. Just kind of shake it. We're doing it in here. Some of us, we're shaking it out. Just, how fast, how slow, however you need to go, and then let that go. We'll go to the other arm and just shake it out. Shake it high, shake it low, fast or slow. Give that a moment. And let's go to a leg. Let's shake it out. Again, just get some movement in that leg. Even if you're sitting, and just rotate your ankles, just move them a little bit. And let that go and move to the other side. Shake it out, move it around. Do what you can with your leg and let that go. And just know that you're kind of shaking it off and maybe switching lenses at this point as we wrap up this conversation.
I really needed that. Thank you. So as we finish off, we usually have our call to action. And so through our talk, I really started thinking about all of us to reflect on what lenses we are intentionally wearing, and to think about that. And when we're using our trauma lenses, to set boundaries for ourselves, to know when to take them off, to use that as self-care, and to also to be able to know that it's okay to take off your trauma lenses, that it is also your responsibility to take them off so that you can, when you put them on, be really intentional about that and to care for yourself. So really would like people, invite them to do that for themselves and to think about that, what that means.